Once you've drawn your form and its contours, I highly suggest you take a kneaded eraser and you softly pull up the lines to make them a little bit softer and lighter, as we don't want dark outlines around our finished form, as outlines instantly make your form look flat and two-dimensional. Take your sharp pointy pencil lead and hold it in your hand as you would when you're writing or drawing, and you're gonna scribble it like crazy on your paper to create that flattened tip. And that's the flat tip that's gonna touch the paper and create this smooth application of graphite. I'm using a 2B for this demonstration. This type of pencil can be really versatile in creating a decent amount of value range, but of course you can use a full graphite set if you want to. I typically start with my darkest values first. I know that my cast shadow is going to give us that, so I'm going to start there. The reason I do this is because I like to see my darkest value on paper and my lightest value. My number 1 value being my brightest highlight closest to the light source, which is here. And then I put my darkest in, and then I have a better sense of all the values that I can use in between. Now with this flattened part of my lead, I'm going to move into the form itself. And a lot of students will start off by shading like this. They'll put a flat scribble of value across. That is an instant no-no. That's an instant way to make your piece look flat. You don't want to do that. So what I like to suggest is that you follow the contour or the outer edge of the form as best you can. Now, applying a smooth layer of graphite is key, especially when the surface of your object is a smooth one. And in this particular example, it is. And in order to create a smooth application of graphite, you want to use that flattened part of your pencil lead that I showed earlier, but also you want to use these kind of circular strokes. I'll go really slow here so maybe you can see it a little bit easier. I'm not creating this type of circular motion. They're very tight circles. And these tight circles is what's allowing the graphite to go down smoothly onto the paper. Now here I'm kind of indicating my lightest highlight and that I want to not cover that up. I want to allow the white paper to show through. I have a 1 value, a white, maybe a 2.5, almost 3 medium value, and a dark. That's not quite where we need it to be yet. So I'm going to go back into this area here, the side of the sphere that's opposite the light, and I'm going to start adding some darker values in the contour, and then we'll start to create a little bit more of an illusion of form. To adjust some of the lighter values, I'll use my kneaded eraser. I will form it into kind of a rounded spherical form at the top, and I will just kind of dab and pull up, and it softens that edge where I had outlined my lightest highlight and allows me to gently pull up some of the values on my form. Now, a lot of times people feel like this is it, that they're done. But actually there's a way we can create a lot more dimension by just thinking about the values in the background and the foreground. Now notice here where the cast shadow touches the bottom of the form itself. They are not exactly the same value. If they were, we would lose this edge. And that can totally take away from the illusion of dimension. When you're drawing from your imagination, you have to think about what values do you have in the top portion or against the background. So I have 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, very light values here. So to make this feel even more contrasted, I'm going to want to go dark in my background area. Same thing I can look at here for this middle ground, foreground. I have a very dark cast shadow and medium to dark values in the bottom of this sphere. So I'm going to want to keep it kind of light in my foreground or on my tabletop. And I'm going to go fairly dark into my background. Now you'll notice to create this crisp edge, I'm using abrupt values, a dark next to a light, instead of the gradual values on the inside of my sphere. I'm rotating my pencil and I'm not using that flattened part of my lead anymore to go up against the edge of my sphere. So I can really create this crisp edge between object and background. And at first it might appear like I'm outlining it, but I'm not, because that edge line that I am creating is actually the same exact value as the background that I'm shading. So it feels as if though there's a solid background behind my form, which just makes it feel like it's popping out or sitting in front of the background. It can be really easy to want to rush when you get to the background too. I've seen students do this just to hurry up and get through. As you see, when you overlap each application of pencil, you have a darker spot. So you need to continue that same soft, circular, well, it doesn't have to be soft, but that same circular motion, that small rotating technique in order to apply smooth value everywhere, whether it be light value or dark value. So now I'm going to attempt to create some values on the middle ground and foreground that aren't too dark nor too light, but still help this bottom portion of the sphere pop a bit. I'm going to clean up and darken a little bit of the value in some areas of the inside or the form of the sphere, just to help push the values a little bit farther from what the middle ground and foreground are. And I might even soften up some of the foreground with the kneaded eraser a touch. It's important to remember the application of the pencil to create a smooth look and contrasting your values so that the form pops. And do not outline your form.